Thank you, Panya, for your comprehensive presentation. Good morning, lecturer, and hello, class. I am Yimdezy from Group 4. The points that I am going to give the explanation on are deductive validity and patterns of argument, and proved beyond reasonable doubts. I am going to begin first with deductive validity and patterns of argument. In order for you to get deep understandings of the first point, I want to give you a quick review of deductive validity. What does it mean by deductive validity? Deductive validity, in accordance to the textbook, it states that if the reasons are true, the conclusion must be true. For example, suppose Rina is a mother, therefore Rina is a woman. So this is what deductive validity looks like. You can see that by the meaning or the definitions of all mothers are women, due to the reasons that we give is true, so the conclusion that stated Rina is woman must be true as well. We mentioned earlier that there are the patterns of argument of deductive validity, that arguments can display different structures. Interestingly, the patterns of argument are such that any argument which has that structure will be deductively valid, whatever its subject matter, whatever it is about. Here is the first structure according to the textbook. The shape is if A then B, and if B then C, and if C then D, so if A then D. For example, in the study text, Romeo and Juliet. If Juliet died, there will be a spreading news of the death of Juliet. If the news of the death of Juliet spreads, Romeo will hear about it. If Romeo hears about it, he will take his own life. Therefore, Juliet died, Romeo will die too. You can see that Romeo was too deeply in love to Juliet. He didn't care about his own future, while caring about only his lover. Therefore, he could not live without his love, and this A is as true as D. Though the original argument was quite long, once you display the structure of its reasoning using the letter A to D to stand for sentences in the original, it is not too difficult to see that if the reasons are true, the conclusions must be true. Indeed, it is easy to see that this will equally true of any other argument which has the same shape. Another example, in real-life situation, suppose that if we don't stop for gas soon, then we'll run out of gas. If we run out of gas, then we'll be late for the exam. If we're late for the exam, our score will get deducted. Therefore, if we don't stop for gas soon, our score will get deducted. So, you can already see that the reasons that we gave is well reasons. Therefore, no matter A or D or B or C, the reasons is true. And also conclusions must be true. So there are two more patterns of argument of deductive validity. Looking at the example of second pattern in real life situation. If you are reading this book, you are alive. You are reading this book, therefore you are alive. So the structure here is if A then B, and A is true, therefore B must be true. So a pattern is here which is clearly deductively valid. If the reasons are true, the conclusions must be true. This is such a common pattern of argument, and it has a special name, modus ponens, or affirming the antecedent. Here is another example from letters from Thailand. If Sung Woo learns Thai language, his business will be a lot easier. He learned Thai language, thus his business was a lot easier. So, talking about the story letter from Thailand, Sung-woo at first didn't want to learn and think that Thai language is bad. However, after that, he realized that learning Thai is very helpful for his business in some ways. Eventually, he learned Thai language. Therefore, his business would be a lot easier. This is another pattern of argument in accordance to the textbook. If A then B, but B is false, so A must be false too. For example, Romeo and Juliet's story. If Friar Lawrence had come up with different solutions instead of letting Juliet faking death, both Romeo and Juliet would not have died. However, near the end of the story, the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet's death is narrated. Therefore, Friar Lawrence did give the poisons to fake Juliet's death. Looking at this, B is false, therefore A must be false, because the statements of the last two sentences are opposite the first sentence. Let's look at the another example in real situation. If Gietta brought money with her, she would not borrow money from her close friend. In reality, Gietta borrowed from her close friend. Hence, as she was in a hurry, she forgot to bring her purse. So here it means that she did not bring her purse. It means she don't have any money. That's why she borrowed from her friends. So the last two sentences here, it means that they are false and they are opposite from the previous two, from the previous first sentence. This pattern is also clearly deductive valid. This pattern is so common that it has a special name. It's called modus tollens, or denying the consequence. I would like to move on to another point, which is the last point of my presentation. It is proof beyond reasonable doubt. So proof beyond reasonable doubt is the standard of proof that applies in criminal matters. This is a matter which juries have to decide. They are not expected to require deductive validity when deciding whether the evidence proves the case. It will normally be possible to imagine ways in which the evidence would be true but the conclusion false, so that the case is not deductively valid, but that is not the test they have to apply. They have to ask whether there is reasonable doubt, not whether there is a possibility that the reasons are true and the conclusion false. Therefore, the meaning of proof beyond reasonable doubt is something that is as certain as possible under any given circumstance. For example, the tragedy case of the story of Romeo and Juliet's death. First, Romeo and Juliet are lovers, although their parents did not know. We have Friar Lawrence, Juliet's nurse, and Romeo's cousin Benvolio as a witness that they are in love and secretly got married. Second, nearby the tomb of Romeo and Juliet, there is a bottle of poison brought in by Romeo, and he drank it. Third, Romeo's dagger is stabbed into Juliet's stomach. That means she stabbed by herself. And last, Friar Lawrence testified the whole plan of him, which are very justified and compatible to the death. In conclusion, their death is a kind of committing suicide. So this is what the proof beyond reasonable doubt looks like. Here is the example of
Time
realization.
for something sweet to eat. If only I hadn't. You see what I meant to do? And it all comes, I suppose, from liking honey so much.
Here suppose that Pooh Bear has just Slipped and fallen egg matters from a tree onto the ground beside his house. Although he seemed to hit the ground hard, he is still conscious, but he is motionless, and he also groaning horribly. There seemed to be blood coming out of his mouth. So the conclusion is made here: he must be seriously dead. So we can prove that. First, falling from a very high tree like that, of course, we can say that it would be really painful, that he can move, although luckily, like he is still conscious. And as the example stated, that the blood it seemed coming out of his mouth, he groans horribly. Therefore, the proof is beyond reasonable doubt that we are certain that the poor bears must be badly hurt. In summary, the phrase "beyond a reasonable doubt" means that something is as certain as possible. And here is the video reference. And thank you for listening.